Huh?
I'm super lost right now.
Crow.
In the background. Behind John. Berries.
It's not a crow, it's a
I'm
mockingbird.
going to read the Lathlete commercial.
Ah, it's a crow.
Are we live?
We are live. Let's see. Mixer looks like it is doing its thing. Mixer's doing what it's supposed to do. I'm going to pop out the chat on Mixer so I can have this.
Yeah.
I'm going to go check over on YouTube. YouTube should be doing what YouTube does. There's all of our faces. Why is this not working? Let me check one thing. Active camera, hide everyone. I don't want to hide everyone.
This is how the butter is made.
How is butter made?
You have to churn it a lot. And you have to take turns churning the butter. Sorry.
Churn turns.
Teachers are the worst.
We haven't even gone live yet, and John's already shaking his head. This is going to be a great interview.
And John, do you have a time limit? We respect your time, but if you want to hang out for 4 hours, we can do that too.
No, can't hang out for 4 hours.
Right.
Is this boy?
We
I
can't
can
hang
hang
out for 4 hours either. So
No, well, that's that. There you go. There you go. How long does the show last?
We usually do about an hour.
Yeah, I can do. I can probably do somewhere around 40, 45 minutes.
Perfect. We
Perfect.
can do that. You can just throw up the sign or just kick Mike in the shin, and then we can get started there. All right, I'm going to send out a tweet, and then we'll start the show, and then we'll have all kinds of fun.
Okay.
Let's see. Live soon. Why is this not working? Retweet with comment.
everybody ready? Get your coughs out. Crack the knuckles.
All right, I'm recording, and here we go. I'm going to play our sweet intro. And actually, John, if you don't mind, I don't know if legally you're allowed to do this. Can you say, this is Jon Warner, and you're listening to the Freelancer Codex podcast?
Sure.
Whenever you are ready.
This is Jon Warner, and you're listening to the Freelancer Codex podcast.
Welcome to the weekly episode of the Freelancer Codex podcast. Your host, Steven, and co-hosts Mike, Devon, and JD are all set. Join us and tweet your questions at Freelancer Codex. Find us on Facebook at Freelancer Codex, or send emails to freelancercodex@gmail.com. Strap into your javelins, and let's drop in.
Welcome, everybody, to a very special episode of the Freelancer Codex podcast. This is episode 117, and it's special because Jon Warner is back with us again, joining us from the Great North. John, welcome. Thank you for hanging out with us. We're very glad you could be here.
Thanks for having me.
It is a pleasure. The last time I think it's been almost like a year and 4 months since the last time we talked. Last time we talked was right before Anthem released, and I think it was actually at your guys's Christmas party. You took a couple extra minutes so that you could talk with a bunch of weirdos like us, and we've always appreciated that.
It's my pleasure, man. It's good to be back.
Well, thanks. So at the top of the show, before I don't want to lead anyone on and think this is going to be like a tell-all where you tell us everything that happened during the development of Anthem. This is going to be very much not Anthem-focused, but more industry-focused, just because you're not allowed to talk about development of games right now. I think the whole BioWare team is still in show, don't tell mode, if I'm not mistaken. So anyone that is thinking this is going to be a huge, long thing about Anthem, it's not. I'm sorry. I don't know when or if you'll ever get that. But this is just us talking with John about the industry. John, you've been in the industry for how long now? How many years? You don't have to tell us how old you are, but...
I've been in the industry for roughly 17 years now.
So you've been around the block, as they say. So we're gonna pick your brain about things that are going on. And right before we dive into that, Mike, will you read us our sponsor for the show for this episode?
He appears
Mike?
to have absconded.
Mike left. So I can't. This is what happens when I can't see the cameras when I've got all my other things up. I need 4 screens instead of 3. So this show is actually brought to you by Laughleet, and Laughleet is a new clothing brand for athletes with a sense of humor. Whether you're a lifelong gym rat or you're just starting the New Year's resolution to get healthy, Laughleet wants you to sport your sense of humor whenever you exercise. So head on over to laughleet.com and check out dozens of hilarious designs like their Bin Swallow t-shirt or their Kerm Rip the Frog tank top. All their shirts and tanks have been custom fit and are made from the softest, highest quality cotton poly fabric. So never pay for another scratchy unisex shirt that fits like it was made for a box. Their shirts and tanks start out at just $19 and they're shipped directly to your door. Laughleet is offering our listeners of the Freelancer Codex podcast 20% off their first purchase on anything from laughleet.com. Just use promo code Freelancer at checkout to get 20% off your first purchase. Again, that's laughleet.com, LAUGHLETE.com. So go support Laughleet. Phaedron over there has been putting together a pretty fun business, and we'd like to support our people, so go do that. All right, so real quick, John, I wanted to really pick your brain on E3. We know that the coronavirus has been canceling everything from the NBA to hockey leagues to every sporting event you could possibly imagine. PAX was canceled, and now just recently we heard that E3 is being canceled. And I wanted to get your take on, how is that going to impact the industry as a whole? Do you think it's going to have little impact, low impact? Do you think that will be better because this one's changed so E3 can evolve in the future?
Oh, that's an interesting point. I think, it feels like this is kind of an inflection point. E3, for a lot of people, is a great event. I know I've always loved it. I love going. It's kind of a gamer's Disneyland in many respects, just go and have a good time and see all the new things. But the landscape of gaming is changing, and how developers interact with gamers is changing. When E3 first came around, that was one of the only ways that we could reach our audience was, we'd put on a big show at E3, invite all the press and retailers, and then the press and the retailers would go and talk to the fans and gamers. And now, we're more able to talk directly to our communities and to our players. So the scene's evolving. I know that E3 has had ups and downs over the last little bit, especially with, big players deciding not to show up to E3. Bethesda hasn't been part of official E3 for a long, long time now. I think it's a bit of an evolution, and we'll see what happens. We'll come out of this year after the ESA's got a chance to kind of reflect on it, and I'm sure that they'll come out and put something interesting back in place, but time will tell.
Yeah, I think of a lot of the little small indie developers that usually get a big chance to be shown with, during the Sony press conference or the Microsoft press conference. Otherwise, they wouldn't have a big presence at those. There's tons of games that you see during their quick little reels that it's like, hey, look at that game. That looks interesting. That's super cool. And I'm kind of scared for those smaller developers that might not get that spotlight this year. Because, I think of a game like Tunic. There's that tiny little fox that looks like Link from Legend of Zelda. That it's like, you saw that for a couple seconds. You're like, oh, that looks really cool. Now I'm interested in that game. Otherwise, it's really hard to find those gems. So I hope there's some way that those little companies can find a way to make a big impact. Because, we'll always, Microsoft and Sony, they'll always be big enough to get eyes on their projects, but those little tiny guys, it's going to be a little bit harder for them to do that.
Yeah, it's a good point. That is one of the great things about E3. But there are also the other venues, right? There's PAX, there are other conventions, and I know that both the Sony, Microsoft, and Nintendo all have a very strong commitment to indie developers. So, hopefully they get their shot and their chance to shine in other ways, in other venues.
Yeah. Do you have a favorite E3 memory or E3 moment?
Oh, man. Honestly, one of my favorite E3s was the very first one I ever attended when I worked at Microsoft. And at that E3, I got to see Fable and meet Peter Molyneux. And Blizzard was actually showcasing a playable of StarCraft Ghost, which was famously canceled. And it was fun. It was great, great playable. That that was a really cool E3. I got to go and see and meet a bunch of really cool people and see a bunch of cool games. And it was my first E3, so it was that's a lasting memory.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting that you got to see StarCraft Ghost back then, and then this year, it was found somewhere on some dev kit, and now there's a playable, slice of StarCraft Ghost out there. Because I mean, that was so big for Blizzard to venture off into the third person perspective game style that, and Blizzard being the perfectionists they are and saying nope, it's not ready. We're gonna cut it back. So that's very cool. I think it's easy for me to like think of E3 2017 because that had a huge impact on us. Like starting a podcast, seeing you up on stage, talking about Anthem for the first time. I mean, was it? You had to have been nervous up there, right? When you're like announcing a big game on the stage at E3.
At the Microsoft press conference.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was crazy. Microsoft they are a well-oiled machine when it comes to their press conferences, though, and there was enough practice involved, fortunately, where by the time you get up there and actually do it, it's breathtaking to stand up in front of all of those people. I don't know how many people were in the arena, 15 or 16,000 people, plus everybody online. So it's definitely breathtaking, but it was exhilarating too. I loved it.
Yeah, that's very cool. Do you have, and this is something that I was like, how do you ask this question? Is the game industry scary, John? Like, is it something that, because you look at it from the outside looking in, and it looks like there's a bunch of people doing tons of hard work, like a bunch of smart people getting degrees and learning to program. I mean, is it scary trying to get into the industry at first, or is it something that, a normal weirdo like we could, just jump in there and get in?
No, it's not scary, and definitely I think it's more approachable than many people think. I don't think you have to have any special gift or anything to get in there. You just have to be aware that there are opportunities, and then think about where you want to jump in. If you're a programmer, getting internships, having programs available to you that you can actually have access to is important. And then I think, like I just got in because I knew people in the industry, and they helped me in.
Yeah. Has there ever been a time in your 17 years where you felt like you wanted to leave the industry, but
Yeah. There have been moments where I was like, okay, maybe this is it for me, because I've done other things besides, develop video games. But I mean, honestly, it's a great industry, and I love it. And I wouldn't want to do anything else. I've done lots of other stuff, and I wouldn't want to leave it.
So what keeps you coming back? Is it just the creativity, being able to create, the people?
Yeah, it's a mix of that, right? It's the people, being able to work with the teams that I've been lucky enough to work with, in both at Microsoft and at Disney and here at EA. I feel very fortunate, and the people are amazing. Some of the most talented, creative, smartest people I've ever had the pleasure of knowing and working with. And that's part of it. And then part of it is, the great opportunity and privilege to be able to create interactive software that people want to play and, provide some entertainment for people. That's a great way to earn your living.
Yeah,
I think that's awesome. Sorry, Steve, I'm going to cut you off because I have a question that I've been wanting to ask, and I just had to find the right way to get in. So earlier, John, you said that the games are evolving and that E3 not going on this year might be something good for the industry. So how are games evolving? Are they evolving from the console-based 10-hour campaign, co-op kind of thing? Like, because Steve got a VR headset for Christmas and we played with that. Are games going that way? Could we see Anthem on VR? Could we see some of these other games that are pretty popular in that? Does that lend to that? What are your thoughts?
Well, I don't know. I don't know about VR and AR. I mean, they're interesting technologies. I've got a VR headset. I'd love to have a HoloLens. But I think the platform that people play on is always going to be a choice that people are making, and I can't see right now one dominating over the other. But I think it's more about accessibility and how we get games, where we can play games now. I mean, Stadia, despite their struggles with their launch, is a very interesting product, and so is NVIDIA's new service, or I guess they relaunched it, GeForce Now. These, streaming, and of course, all the major platforms have streaming platforms now that allow you to play almost anywhere. And it's that type of immediacy, being able to see a game, grab it, play it, and with streaming platforms, you don't have to wait for it to download. There's no patches, there's none of that. And so it just becomes all more immediate and accessible and available. And it's really exciting to me because I think, one of my lifelong passions and joys has been reading. And I've always had a book in my pocket since I was in junior high school.
Right.
And now suddenly gaming has similar opportunities, right? When I was in the military, I always had my original Game Boy stuffed in my cargo pocket of my pants, right?
Loaded up with Tetris, right?
That's right, and Castlevania, and Metroid.
Nice.
Because you never knew. It's always hurry up and wait in the military.
Yeah.
So you're sitting around waiting for something terrifying to happen, and so you pull out your Game Boy.
What kind of pressure does that put on developers, that immediacy of being able to have something in your pocket, having regular updates, new content dropping? Like how does that affect you as a developer?
Well, it's really changed the landscape of how we develop games and how we live with our development cycles. Back when we were publishing games that were on a cartridge, you had one shot at it and you made it as good as you could make it. And then it was done. It was out there. It was gone. But now, it's great that we are able to refresh content and deliver new stuff. But it changes how you have to think about how you approach developing it and creating that content, and how you're going to feed the game and the community and things like that. It's a different mindset.
Yeah, thinking of the immediacy and being able to stream, it makes me think that it's almost like you just need a quick hit of a game. So your games that you can stream, they can't be like those big, long, you're not going to play The Witcher 3 on your iPhone while you're waiting in line, right? It's got to be those really quick to play, pick up and go games, which seems like that would be kind of hard to do because right now with I'm in the beta for the Xbox xCloud, and it's great thinking I can play Halo whenever I want, right? But then it's right. Until I get capped from, because I'm streaming, how many gigs over here and I should be working, but it'll really be interesting to see if, developers start making smaller bite-sized games, almost like a mobile game, I guess. But then you're like, well, don't we already have mobile games?
It's about context, right? I mean, there are games that you play while you're waiting at the store or at the bus stop or whatever. And those are little bite-sized experiences. Man, what am I playing right now? I'm playing Knighthood from King, and that thing's crazy. But I love it, and it's great because I play it for a few minutes and then I set it down, and it's fun. But I don't want to play Halo like that. I want to play Halo, when I'm able to sit down and really immerse myself in that world, because Bungie and then 343 has done an amazing job in creating that. I think the opportunity in the streaming then becomes, I can play it on a device that's relatively low powered. I can have a Chromebook or a laptop of some sort and stream Halo to it and play it at the fidelity that otherwise would have to be at home to get. So I'm out camping, or I'm visiting my parents or my family, and I have all of this gaming power at my fingertips. To me, that's the exciting bit. And whether it changes the nature of long form gaming or not, I guess we'll see.
Yeah, that'll be really interesting. So you said you're playing Knighthood. So what other games are you playing now, John? What what keeps you busy at night or in the morning whenever you game?
Well, I used to get up early in the mornings and game, and this past year has been it's been a rough year for me personally. So a lot of my gaming time's been eaten up. But from the bits and pieces that I've been able to squeeze in, I've been playing Link's Awakening on my Switch, which is so charming. I just love playing that game. Knighthood on my phone. I've been playing Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order on my PS4. I've just been kind of screwing around with my Xbox. I've gone back to the Master Chief Collection.
Yeah,
because they keep updating that, and I'm a big Halo nerd, so I enjoy playing it and reading their books and all that stuff.
Yeah, I've always been impressed by how much extra content the Halo universe produces through all of their books about Blue Team and everything that they've done. I've always wanted other developers to keep putting out that much content, because it seems like since they began, like, they never stop putting out novels. There seems to be a ton of novels and more content to dive in. And I really love that about the Halo universe, because that's a really cool universe. And I'm excited for Halo Infinite to be released later on this year. So what are your thoughts on this next generation? We've got Halo 5, a big flagship title coming out for Xbox Series X. I mean, with the coronavirus also affecting possibly release dates of the new PlayStation and the new Xbox, do you think Sony's kind of been playing it way too safe while Microsoft has really been getting after it with, Game Pass and everything that they're doing and showing off?
God, it's so hard to tell. It seems like Sony and Microsoft trade places every other year, right? The 360 was so dominant. And then, PlayStation 4 comes back and just really shows off what a high quality console really is. And my Xbox One X, I play it, I love it, and I'm looking forward to the Series X. So, we'll see. I don't know. Sony's a big player. They've got a lot up their sleeve. I think Microsoft has a nice big advantage right now, because they've been basically the only one speaking to the audience. So everyone's really excited about their platform. I know I'm excited about it. So I never count Sony out, though.
Yeah, I think it's going to be pretty awesome to see what this generation brings, because it seems like the services that everyone's providing now is to get us engaged, and we'll all benefit from that. But I know you talked a little bit about Stadia earlier. Do you think they can kind of reposition themselves to be that Netflix of games that we always thought that they were trying to be before they showed us that model?
I think they can. I think with a company like Google, and this is their first foray into gaming in a serious way. So they're gonna have a learning curve, and I think they can reposition it and turn it around and bring something that is more clearly a value proposition. Right now their pricing model and their game library and stuff, it's super confusing. And so I think streamlining that, coming out with a clear value proposition for gamers. The technology is awesome, and the possibilities are amazing. So I think they'll turn around.
I hope
Speaking
so.
of all the possibilities, sorry, Steve.
No, you
Speaking
go,
of all the
Mike.
possibilities and everything that's available, so in the industry, maybe you've got some insider information. When will crossplay be a thing, like normal crossplay? When can we expect that? Just as every day, this is industry standard. Yeah.
Right. Unfortunately, I don't have any secret information on that one. I hope it happens within this generation. It won't happen at the beginning of the generation, but I hope it happens this time. It's just, the appliance that you're playing on is becoming more and more irrelevant, especially with cloud services. So I think that, crossplay has a real opportunity here, because we all want to play together. And we don't want to be limited by the hardware that we play on. So I think it'll happen.
I hope so. We need to be able to play together. Enough of this loyalty to the plastic.
Enough of this. I only play on Xbox on Thursdays and PC on Fridays, and so
Ain't no one
Yeah.
can
It's
for that.
to bring people together, not
let's
tear
just
us
all get
apart.
along, right?
Can't we
Let's
all
just
just
get along. Exactly. So I'm gonna change gears here. I know Steve wanted to say something, but I'm gonna cut him off. And because John, you've been talking for a while, we're gonna give your voice a break because that's how it works on a show like this. So what has everybody been playing currently? Like we haven't met in a while. So what is everybody doing? What and we'll let John answer too, but we'll just go around the room and what's everybody been up to? We haven't met for a while. Steve?
Oh, I just wanted to ask John questions, so that's
Oh, of
that's
course
all
you
I've
did.
been preparing for. So I'll
He's
ask you
been
this,
talking for a while.
because since we only have him for 45 minutes, I'll tell everyone what I've been playing, because I've been playing a ton of stuff afterwards. But John, like, serious question: what sets BioWare apart from everywhere else? I mean, you've worked at other places, so what makes BioWare BioWare? What's the magic?
Oh man. I mean, it's the people there, obviously, but it's also kind of the focus and the mission. I think that this past year we've put a lot of work into making sure that we're shoring up the things that make BioWare special, and delivering experiences that our fans want to play. But for me personally, what makes BioWare special is the people that we work with, the people that are there, dreaming and creating and really laying it all out on the line, creating any sort of entertainment, whether it's a novel or a movie or a video game, is an incredibly vulnerable act, right? Because you're taking all of your ideas and your creative impulse, and you're laying it out on the line for people to like or love or hate, and it's difficult. It's in that aspect, it's a scary thing to do. But the people of BioWare, and I'm talking about the people, the creators, the modelers, the programmers, the audio designers, the animators, producers and development directors. They lay it out on the line every day in a fearless way, and that's what I love about BioWare. That's why I stay at BioWare, and I think that's what ultimately why BioWare has made great games like Mass Effect and Dragon Age and Knights of the Republic and Anthem, and I think that's what it is.
And I think when we think about video games as entertainment, we can look at movies and people can be super upset at movies, but it seems like they just move on, right? Because it's not like you can go in and patch a movie unless it's something like Cats, right? And they just forget to, cover the human's hands with fur. But, video games, it seems like as a developer, like we've seen, all that's been said on Twitter and Reddit, and that's got to be hard because usually, like, no one's pointing out, like, the Grit Boy #2 that was out there filming Mission Impossible. It's just like, oh, we hate it, we're angry, and then they move on. But video games just, and I think that's probably because they're able to create so much more emotion in us, just by the nature of being a video game, and we're controlling something and it brings us in. And so I think that's one of the things I love about video games, is that you can get so invested because there are people behind the scenes, pouring their heart and souls into these things. And it's kind of like a double-edged sword that, some people are going to love it, some people are going to hate it. And you probably have to grow kind of a thick skin just to be able to say, yeah, this is what I made. I mean, love it or hate it. I don't, we can work on it, but I mean, that's got to be hard to do.
It is. It's hard. It's hard to take some of the more brutal criticisms that are out there. But a lesson that I was lucky enough to pick up while I worked at Disney. I worked with a really interesting director, movie director at Disney, and he said, as we were getting ready to launch his movie, he said, look, the movie's going to go out and it's going to do what it's going to do, but it'll find its audience, and there will be those people who love it. And, that's who I'm making this movie for. And I feel a lot of times the same way about games. You make a game You pour your heart and your soul into it, and you get some things right and you get some things wrong, and it goes out and it finds its audience. And we're lucky enough that the people who have loved and played Anthem and stuck around and built up communities around it and had amazing moments in it, we're lucky. We're lucky to have those people. And I personally am very grateful for that community. And I'm happy that it's gone out and made some people happy and given them hours of enjoyment. And, that's why you do it. That's why you get up in the morning. And, for the people that we disappointed, I'm sorry for it. And it breaks my heart. And, you just try to learn your lessons. You can go back and you do it again and you try to be better.
Yeah. And I think one thing, I mean, you guys, either way, you created an emotion in somebody. And,
Mm-hmm.
and a lot of games out there, they don't create emotion. And at least you can say, I created an emotion in you, whether it was good or bad, that I made you feel something. And I don't know if that's like, hey, we made you feel crappy. That's awesome for us. But I mean, you're making somebody feel something. So you've done something to someone. You had an impact on someone. And for us, it's been a roller coaster of a ride, covering Anthem and being in there since day one and starting a podcast and being able to talk to you guys, that it's, those are like memories that we'll never forget. And, we're super grateful for the passion and just being able to talk to developers that have worked on the game. Like, everyone that we've talked to has been super kind and super helpful and, just willing to talk and listen. And, that's got to be a really hard thing to do, especially when, I mean, you work at a studio that has like massive budgets. I mean, like BioWare is one of the big developers out there. Do you think that, and this is something I've thought about a lot, do you think that, the way games are made now, that it would kind of be nice if we just kind of scaled back a little bit and stopped, going for these massive budgets and having to, crunch to put these things out, that maybe, hey, we could just kind of make a smaller experience and we can get it out there and people will love it and then be able to do more of them? Because it seems like the $60 price tag, that's not something that's super sustainable with the amount of, these massive projects that people are putting out. I don't know if that's even a question.
I think that my opinion on it is we need entertainment in various forms. I love, just like my movies, I love summer blockbusters. I love the Avengers. But that doesn't mean that I don't really enjoy a well-made, small film, small production. And I feel the same way about games. Dead Cells was one of the best games I've ever played. I love that game, and that was not a big team. And I think that there's room in the industry to have big blockbusters. And I think that, there's all sorts of talented houses and developers out there that are bringing us, different takes on it. The indie games or AAA indie.
Yeah.
I think like Ninja Theory is creating a bunch of amazing stuff over there. I don't know if you played Hellblade, but that was a really interesting experience. I really enjoyed that. So, there's room. And I think that's the most important thing. When we as an industry don't have room for all sorts of developers with all sorts of budgets, then we're in trouble. Then we're in real trouble.
Do you think BioWare has room for some of those smaller teams and smaller titles that could potentially come out in the future? Because to me it seems like BioWare is like, hey, you're one of the Michael Bays of the industry. You're gonna make these big blockbusters, sell millions of copies. I mean, you have some of the biggest franchises in the industry that it'd be silly not to capitalize on that, right? So is there room for like, hey, this is a small new IP, a group of 30 developers, and this is what we came up with?
I don't know. We'll see. I think that, right now to build a game like a Mass Effect or Dragon Age or an Anthem requires a lot of effort, a gigantic amount of effort.
Yeah.
And, we'll see. We'll see where it goes. I think that there's certainly interest and appetite at the studio level to explore new things and do new things. But we also want to make sure that we're telling the stories, the big stories that we want to tell, and that requires a vehicle like a Dragon Age or an Anthem to get it done.
So speaking of stories, is there a piece of literature or a piece of entertainment that's really had an impact on you, like on a personal level, that's really stuck with you? I know that drives you to be like, hey, I remember when I read The Hobbit, and this is like informed all of my years from here on.
There's a lot of them, actually. Like I said earlier, I'm a voracious reader. I think some of the big titles or big novels that have stuck with me are, clearly Lord of the Rings. I read at a very early age, and that really had a big effect on me as a person, and opened up a whole new world where I figured out that, imagination is a wonderful, wonderful thing. Beowulf, the Odyssey, those books sit with me a lot in the back of my mind. The 1001 Nights, those books are key to my own creative process and who I am as a person. And those are the ones that I usually go back to.
So a lot of the hero's journey then. So.
Oh yeah, for sure. I'm a big Joseph Campbell nut.
Very cool. Is
The
there?
monomyth.
Do you have like an IP that'd be like your white whale that you would love to work on, whether it's from a book or an existing IP that's out there in the video game world that you're like, man, I have to work on this. I have to work on a Halo title before I retire. Do you have something like that you just before Jon Warner's done? What is it? Can you tell us?
Like a bucket list.
I can't tell you what.
Oh, you can't. Can you tell us what it rhymes with?
It rhymes with. I can't tell you.
It rhymes with Schmalo.
Oh man.
Right. Kiki Wolfkill, if you're listening, I'm here.
Well, I really appreciate the time that you had for us, John. I mean, we could probably talk for minutes and minutes more, but I know that it's I don't even know what time zone you're in, because for some reason I thought you were still in the States. I didn't even know that you were back up in Canada.
I'm in the cold time zone, but we're mountain time. We're in the mountain time zone. But I appreciate you guys for having me on. You guys run a great community. I've appreciated you from day one. And meeting you is always a great pleasure to me. And so just thank you for having me on. I appreciate it.
No, we really appreciate it.
You.
We were hoping that we might be able to meet again at EA Play, but I'm guessing that's probably not going to happen this year, which is kind of sad.
Yeah. I think let's not do it this year. Let's do it next year.
Sounds good. And John, do you have any parting words for all the Anthem fans out there? Anything you would like to say before you sign off?
Yeah, sure. I want to thank you. I want to thank each and every one of you. If I could personally reach out and thank each and every one of you, I would. I think that you're the reason why we get up in the morning, and making games that make you happy, and the fact that you've had so much fun and stuck with Anthem and enjoyed it for what it is. That just means the world to me. And you'll never know really how much it means to me. So thank you from the bottom of my heart, and hopefully we'll see each other in person someday soon.
Pretty soon.
Hey, John, thanks a lot.
All right,
Thank
guys.
you so much for stopping by.
There's a
Try to
shaper
behave
storm out there.
yourselves, would you?
No way. No fun in that.
All right, cheers, folks.
We'll
See
see
you,
ya.
John.
Bye-bye.
And with that, there's a shaper storm on the horizon, and we'll see you on the other side.
Thanks for listening. You can find us on Twitter at Freelancer Codex, on Facebook at Freelancer Codex, or through email at freelancercodex@gmail.com. Join the Discord through the link provided at freelancercodex.com. Our show will always be free, but if you'd like to send some support, you may do so at patreon.com/freelancercodex. Our individual Twitter handles are at Steven Lamson, at mlamson25, at Neverfear, and at JD the Joke Dealer. Freelancers, it's time to get to work.
Do you guys remember the Chris Farley show, where Chris Farley would you're muted, Mike.
I'm not.
Oh, so where Chris Farley would interview a bunch of different people, and he had the suit on, and he'd be like, "Hey, so do you remember that one time where you made a video game? Yeah, that was awesome." That's how I feel a lot of the times when I'm interviewing people because I feel like I just flounder
I think
all over the place.
I think you're dreaming of that. I don't remember that. I'll have to look that up.
You don't remember
Always
the-
fun to have Jon Warner on.
It's on SNL.
Appreciate him a lot. I'll have to check
But-
it out. Good guy.
Yeah.
It's tough. It's tough when you get in front of people like that because you're like, what do you ask? What can I ask? Is this question dumb? Is he gonna silently judge me? So
Well, I think most of the questions that I have are dumb, but it's hard because I mean, I would love to talk. You would love to talk Anthem with a lot of the developers, but you know that they can't
Yeah.
because
can't.
they just can't. And we could
just can't.
spend all day saying, "So, Anthem," and they'll say, "I can't answer that," and you'll say, "Can't you?" And they'll say, "No, I can't." So you could spend all that time doing that, or you could just have a conversation, which seems like it'd
Right.
be better just to have a conversation. So.
yeah.
Everyone in chat, thank you for hanging out with us. We really appreciate it. We hope that you enjoyed this chat with Jon Warner, and we're probably gonna have someone else on next time.
Who do you keep winking at?
Myself, actually. So it's really hard. So I have a screen here, and then I have the stream here that I'm monitoring. So it's really hard for me to figure out like where to look when I'm talking.
Uh-huh.
Because even when I'm looking at Jon, I'm looking down here at the corner. So it doesn't look like I'm looking at Jon because the camera's
Right.
up here. But if I look at the camera, I can't get any of the facial, cues that come from
Just-
talking to
You
somebody.
just got to get used to looking at the camera. You just stare at the camera because that's what you're looking at.
Just need to be a better interviewer, I guess, which is hard to
It takes
do.
practice. It takes practice and development and time.
Right. So until next time, I think I'm actually still streaming because usually Devon does all this stuff and now I'm doing it. So I'm going to end the stream now
Aha.
and I'll talk to everyone later.
Word.
Click.